Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Do we have any data today? Let me see. I don't think we do. No, we do not. So taking a look at our trade plan from last night, we said holding above 709, we're looking for 25, which is a break of that all-time high, and then 50, which is the extension level. That is still good. Holding below 90, we're looking for 72. That is the value high of Wednesday, and 54 or 45. 54 is the value retrace, 45 is the weekly open. So same trade plan as last night, since we have been ranging pretty much the entire pre-market here. We have that D-shaped kind of inside day value, so we're kind of pinned to that price. NASDAQ, same story, holding above 795, looking for 900, which is that extension. And then 25,000, just a nice whole number there. Holding below 695, we're looking for 524. That is the value high of Wednesday. And 403, the value low of Wednesday. You could also target the weekly open if it gets very aggressive. That's pretty far away. Probably not going to get that today. Same thing, D-shaped profile showing an inside profile of yesterday, which is confirming that there is value above the FOMC. We had the FOMC come out, traded above it yesterday, and then we're kind of confirming that value today. So, doesn't look too bad. All right, so let's see here. Let's take a look at a couple things. "30-minute trail flipping green right on the last candle of the pre-market, so that will be a decent flip. Keep an eye on that pivot at 715. Our momentum is not exactly topped out just yet, but almost. You're pretty topped out on the 15-minute. Little bit extended as well, so if you pop up right away, it will be a little bit worrying. 30-minute green as well on NASDAQ. No pivot up here. Protecting a couple of blue pivots on the low, bouncing away from them. Momentum is almost topped out. 15-minute has a little bit more room to climb here. Slightly extended. Not too bad. Let's take a look at our watch list positions here, the swing trading positions. Intel looks pretty good. We need to see a secondary move. We don't want to go for a gap fill here. If it starts going for a gap fill, we're going to have to close that. And I would not like to close it. I want to hold on to this for a bit longer. I'd like to get 35 to 37 at the minimum. Rivian yesterday closed above the daily pivot and the weekly pivot. So this could be the start of that failure to rotate going to the upside here. So keep a close eye on that. That was our first weekly pivot in quite a while, and we did close above it. We still have that triangle where we have the lower highs and higher lows, so we don't really know just yet. But with that trail bounce, with the pivot break, and this potential pinch, it does look like it could be ready to break that lower high structure. So just keep an eye on that. I did some more research on the other watch list names. This name here, the chart is really good, but they're actually being sued they've got a couple of lawsuits for like fraud and misleading investors. So I'm probably not gonna trade this one. The pattern looks good. If you don't care about stuff like that, the pattern looks good, but yeah. I looked into Sentinel-1. I didn't see any glaring red flags on Sentinel-1, so we're keeping a close eye on that one as well. All right, let's go back to our other charts here. Mark out a couple of points. Let's see here. I think all of these points have been tested. Yep. So the overnight high is very recent. So all of these points back here have been tested. I am going to mark out this old overnight high right over here to see how that flip plays out. And then I will mark out this low as well. And that is pretty much it. That old overnight high is being lost right now. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Backpacking Scott, Trevor, Marcel. Here is the trade plan for you guys. Keep it on VWAP. Here comes VWAP at 99. The very early retest. Still in that D-shape kind of back and forth rotation. Good morning, Future, Leo, Jose, Nitro, Broccoli, Banana, Zip, Alex, Angelo, Roger, Greg, Tamer, Lubomir, Larry, Igor, Stuart, Lucio, Barrage, Curtis, 2013, Prophet, Orion, Ordinary. Good morning, Yusa, Peter, Morris, Lulu, eBay, JC, DMG, Sam, Roman. Want a DS, Max, Boat, and Chuck. Appreciate you guys all being here. Watch VWAP here. VWAP in 99. Much lower on NASDAQ. NASDAQ is 731. Today is that massive expiration day. You have a lot of different contracts expiring today. So it's going to be a bit of a weird day. All right, nothing out of the ordinary right now. We are just rotating between our value levels, 709 and 690. So 690 is coming up down here. Got about 8 points left. Here comes VWAP on NQ around 732. Keep an eye on the sweep level here. If it gets back above 701, that will be a 30-minute low sweep. We'll see if it can flip the delta there. Possibly a failure to rotate. You're not getting back down to that that 90 level, but this is an inside day, so we don't know if we are rotating today or are we rotating yesterday. If it's just rotating today, it's going to stall around 95. If it's rotating yesterday, it's going to go down to 90. So we just don't really know until we see a couple of retests, right? That's the problem with inside days, is you just don't really know. You don't know which day it wants to focus on for the first like 30 minutes to like the first hour. Once you have more of a profile from like the initial balance, then you can kind of determine what you're doing. But that first hour, you're not really sure. Not finding any buy pressure back above that 30-minute low, so we are still one directional here. Building a pretty strong node on that 98. Want a Churchill live and Seth, Christopher? Yeah, it's an OPEX day. It's a very large expiration day. So it might be pretty choppy. All right, we have that bounce off VWAP. It is front running it by like a point or two. Yeah, a couple of points. We'll see if they can stay above this 30-minute low here. These expiration days are just very unusual. They're just very unpredictable. There's a lot of smart money throwing very large amounts of money around. I mean, you can just see the delta levels. Our delta is just through the roof. Very similar to how we traded yesterday. Very wide balance. I really don't want to close Intel, but if we don't see any kind of buy pressure going into the weekend, I might have to close either a large chunk of it or the entire position. I don't like when things gap up like this and they don't show any follow through. So the difference with like American Eagle, and it's actually kind of almost the same as American Eagle. It gapped up and then it just really struggled to find that follow through. It eventually did. It went to like 20 and a half or whatever. But it took so long to do that. We closed it at like 18. I think it was 18 and 19. But yeah, same thing with Intel here. It's just really struggling to find that follow through. So when they do that, it just makes you think that it's going to go for that gap fill. Makes it very dangerous. I don't like that it didn't have any follow through whatsoever during that press conference. They did a 1 p.m. press conference and nobody bought it. If you take where it was on the overnight high, which was like the explosion move, it would have been really hard to sell there. But the highest point on the overnight high was around like 33 and a half. So it's already given up like $3, almost $4, which is not great. I'm not using that as my metric because that's like the explosion. I'm saying like maybe like 31 is fair value. So it's given up like $2 almost. I usually don't take the highest point like that as like the, oh, I could have exited here. Because you're not going to exit on the highest point, right? You try to look at where the fair value is. And then from there, you're like, okay, I'm kind of giving up a little too much. I'll probably give it one attempt below 29. If it stays below 29, that's going to be a large close or a full close. At that point, you would have given up about $3. All right, just waiting for this cluster to decide what it wants to do here. Very choppy open. All right, that bullish block is turning into a little bit of a 30-minute sweep. It is being protected. They came down and retested it a couple of times. Not like an actual retest, but a very quick one. We'll see if they maintain this buyer delta here. So I think at that point, you could say that we are rotating today, not yesterday. You didn't quite get to the value low there. You front ran it by a point or two, typically within our margin of error. You did not get to the value low of yesterday. So it is more so respecting today's profile, which is around 707. Massive block trades coming in there. Another 1700. That will finish the rotation of today. It's also hitting yesterday's value highs, so they're both kind of the same level. So staying below 709 goes right back down. We'll keep an eye on that level. So 709 is that value high, so we'll watch that here. Very strong bullish delta coming in. Just keep an eye on those EMAs. See if we want to trend here. If they can hold above that 709 and respect the EMAs, we're looking for a higher node. So they got to build a node outside of that value area. Good morning, Trent. Good morning, Joan. Good morning, Michael. Struggling to find value above this value high. They need to build a node above 709 here. Let's see if they can push above it. High of day of yesterday is 719, so keep an eye on that. Taking a look at NASDAQ, we are already at high of day. It has also finished that rotation of today. Still struggling. They need to push above this 709 and then start to establish that node if they want to break balance here. You can see it's getting a lot of bearish delta. I will say they are protecting it. They're not allowing it to go below 709. But you are getting a lot of bearish delta here. Okay, re-breaking 709, so now we are going back into rotation if they do not quickly bounce off these EMAs. Watch these EMAs here, because when you are breaking balance, you are trending, right? So you like to respect those EMAs. We'll see if they respect them. No sweep level or anything up here. It's just that that value high. So you could be sweeping the value high, but not the 30-minute. How's the market doing? Yeah, pretty mixed bag today. A lot of green, a lot of red. The large companies are still fairly green, but most of the smaller tech, pretty red. A lot of finance red, energy red. Pretty mixed bag. Not very one-directional. Looks like we are back into rotation here. 709 down to 95, possibly 97. Keep an eye on VWAPs. VWAPs at 700 and 702. A lot of bearish delta coming in. Very nasty opening candle. A session is very sloppy. This is typically what happens when you have those D-shaped balance days. A lot of separate nodes. We've got a node around 700, 702, 705, 709. Really big block trades, 702 and 707. 705 to be exact. So yeah, pretty sloppy day. Back into a bearish rotation, possibly down to 700, maybe 97. So this box that we're trying to flip here, this is the prior overnight high. So we had the overnight high around the open. And then we broke through it, and now we're trying to retest it here. So if they hold that, it's slightly bullish, trying to gain more value on that overnight. Slightly trendy on NASDAQ, respecting the EMAs. It should not be doing that if it wants to rotate, right? So that is showing a potential failure to rotate. You can see it's respecting that 24 here. You also could argue that ES is failing to rotate, putting in a support here on the POC, but it should be going down to maybe 700 or lower, so it is stalling a bit early here. seller block 705. We're going to be seeing a lot of those today. Block trades and potentially walls. These large OPEX days, the expiration days, you get a lot of that smart money trading. You can see how active the large tape is so far. Still kind of a failure to rotate. Keeps finding a lot of buy pressure on this low here. So you can see we started to rotate. We lost that 09. And it wanted to go down to like minimum 700, maybe 97. And you had that one smooth motion and then it just kind of stalled, right? So this is that failure to rotate, building that cluster, building that node. Before finishing that rotation, it should be going down. It's not going down, right? So it's a failure to rotate. So what you start to look for on the failure to rotate is you go back to the other value level, right? So we're going back to the value high. And then from that point, we start to see, okay, is it going to attempt to go back down again? Is it going to try to rotate again? Or is this the break of balance? That's where we have to look for the same thing we watched earlier. Watch those EMAs, watch those nodes, see if the nodes are going to build up above that 709. The first attempt didn't really do that. They could not build a node outside of that value high. They were doing okay. They were like holding right on that level for a little bit, but they never pushed above it, and they never build that higher node. So that was a problem. So we'll keep an eye on it this time around. It's a bit harder because you have the high of day protecting you. So all the sellers on like the high of day are also selling the value high. So it's holding you down a little bit. Same thing on ES. You can see this upper tail. Failed, failed, failed. We haven't looked at the big companies in a while. How are they doing? Microsoft reclaiming a daily pivot and the trail. Not looking too bad. Apple's doing okay. I heard some bad things about their new phones. I saw their new phones are being very easily scratched. The cameras are getting like condensation stuck in the lens. So they already have a couple of complaints on their new phones. Facebook possible cup and handle needs to hold above, I'd say, like 760. Netflix not doing a whole lot here, just kind of in a distribution. Amazon, same thing, kind of a vertical distribution, bouncing off the trail repeatedly. Tesla, beautiful. We talked about this a long time ago. This was back in like March, if you guys were watching way back then. We talked about this pivot to pivot move because Tesla had these really long pivots. When you have these like multicolor, really long pivots, that's when you want to look for that ranging pivot to pivot move. Now, this was a disgusting pivot to pivot. It was like a 100% $200 move, but there you go. It's finally complete. So that blue pivot way back from... when did that start? This is a really old pivot. October of 2023, being retested in April of 25. Nearly 2 years old. And this pivot is December of 24, nearly a year old, being retested. If you can stay above that pivot, doesn't look too bad. What else do we have here? NVIDIA still distributing here. Needs to flip that daily trail. Google has been on a tear. Look at that. You had a bunch of stair-stepping pivots, then you finally found that bottom. Massive move up on Google. Pretty extended off the trail and that recent pivot, so be a little careful if you guys are trading that. Keep an eye on that 235 pivot, maybe a pullback or a consolidation. It's a little extended. All right, looks like we are not going back above that value high, so we're kind of bouncing back and forth here between the POC and the value high. Yeah, whatever their newest phones are. Is that the 17? Yeah, I'm not sure if they're like widespread issues, but I was seeing a couple of videos of people talking about maybe wait on this one. I don't buy fancy new stuff anyway, so. Have I seen the Huawei phone? I think I have. Yeah, I think I've seen videos of it. Apple has me a part of their cult. I don't think I'd ever switch off of Apple. It's not even the fact that I'm like a big fan of their products or anything. I just don't really feel like trying anything else. It folds in 3 and becomes a tablet. That's pretty cool. It's like $2,000. Yeah, no thanks. I have not used anything but an iPhone since like, I don't even know. Like what, the iPhone 4? iPhone 3 or 4 or something like that? I'm the customer they love and they hate, because they love that I'm never going to switch products, but they hate me because I don't fall for that bullshit of like getting a new phone every single year. It's like the people who play sports video games, like the FIFAs and the Maddens and the 2K25 or 27 or whatever the hell they're at now. They make like one minor adjustment to the game. They basically copy and paste it, and they sell you a new game for 60 bucks, 80 bucks, whatever it is nowadays. Okay, looks like we do not have the momentum to break balance here, so it's trying to rotate back down to 700, possibly 97. Putting in a lower high now. Still using the iPhone 4? Well, funny story is, I quite literally, let me see what's in the box, 1 second. I have an iPhone 15 Plus brand new in the box sitting right next to me. It's been sitting here for probably a year, maybe 2 years, whenever this thing came out, and I just don't feel like opening it and transferring my stuff. I need to, I'm just gonna take it back and trade it in for the new one. Well, probably not now, probably not this one. This one's got issues. I probably should just crack it open and finally use it. I think right now I'm using like a 10 or 11 or something, I'm not sure. I'm really bad about buying new shit and then just not using it. But I don't buy new shit all the time, so it's like a weird conundrum. It's like I rarely buy stuff, but then when I buy it, I just let it sit in a box. I had a broken mouse for like 6 months. I think my left click or something was broken. It was like double clicking. And I had a brand new mouse like sitting right next to me. I don't know why I do that. It's like a mental block. I don't know. Yeah, Roman, I have told that story a few times. I don't know when it came out. Whenever this thing came out, when did the iPhone 15 come out? Was that 2 years ago? That's pretty bad if we're coming up on 2 years. Yeah, I thought about doing that, doing like a giveaway. I don't know if you guys can like track where this thing came from or like I don't know if it's tied to my account or anything like that, so that's why I'm kind of weird about giving it away. I just need to take it back to the store and get like trade-in value for it at this point. Here's VWAP, VWAP at 701. This is that rotation being completed. Actually, the rotation goes down to 97 now, so this is the cash rotation. I didn't really lose money on it or anything because I got it on like a ridiculous, I think it was like a Black Friday sale or something. I got it for like half off. I mean, I technically lost money because I literally haven't used it, but if I went to trade it in, I think it would be worth probably the same amount of money I paid for it. Well, I think that's the last new thing right now. That's the last new thing that I haven't opened. It's mostly tech shit. Like I just have a bad connection with like tech stuff because every single time I try to do new tech stuff or fix something, it's just always a headache. Something breaks and then it's just a pain in the ass. Keep an eye on the session VWAP here on NASDAQ 751 coming up. Where is our rotation on NASDAQ? Let me double check. Rotation on NASDAQ is 730. Unfortunately, guys, it might be like this for the whole day, because this is very typical for an OPEX day in September. They used to call it like triple witching. I think it's like quad witching now. But you have a massive amount of expiration, delta, gamma, whatever you want to call it. There's just a lot of contracts, rollovers. I mean, you name it. I think it's typically the largest of the year. I don't know if that's still true. I haven't seen the data recently, but it is typically the largest expiration of the year. Yeah, I don't care about stuff like that, Jake. I'm not one of those like those people. I got nothing to hide. I mean, I don't like that the phone is listening to you at all times, but I'm not going to go out of my way to buy a fancy phone to stop that. VWAP should not change based on the time frame. It's going to be pretty much to the tick identical. The only difference is when you lower the time frame, it has more calculation points, right? Because it can calculate itself every minute instead of like every 30 minutes. So depending on your charting platform, if it uses a live VWAP where it's auto-adjusting, it doesn't matter. If it's waiting for the candle close, then it will matter, right? But no, it should not matter for the most part. It should be pretty much the same. You want a crypto? Can this be a bull flag in a VWAP? Not exactly, I wouldn't say, no. Because you're more so rotating around VWAP, you're not like impulsing away from it. The first pullback, I would have said yes. So this, you're impulsing away from it, and then you're pulling back into it. So this pullback here, I would say yes. This pullback here, no. Yeah, Stuart, it's a Friday. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, options expiration days of the year. So it's going to be a pretty hard day to trade. So if you made a little money and you want to call it, have a long weekend, nothing wrong with that. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So like this is not really an impulse because you're not changing market structure. You made a lower high. You are still seeing a bullish bias today because it will not allow it to go back to that value low entirely. It's kind of front running it. You could argue that it's being hit like within your margin of error, but it's not actually smashing through that level. So you have that slight bullish bias bouncing off VWAP. You can see it on NASDAQ too. Pretty strong bounce off the session VWAP. You got to watch that structure though, because like I was just saying, these bounces, they're not really changing the structure at all. You're still putting in lower highs. I mean, this price action is like to a T what you're expecting to see today. These like long-legged D-shape dojis. I couldn't tell you, Jake. I've never really sat there and like stared at an options chain to say that it's leading or not leading. But you would have to assume that that's not the case. You would have to assume that the futures are the top dog. Like if there's like a hierarchy of like what is the thing that is causing these movements, you would have to assume that the futures are at the top, right? They're top of the pyramid. It would be like futures and then possibly into like the ETFs and then the options flow. But yeah, I don't have like any sophisticated systems or formulas or anything like that to track all that shit. It's just what I go off my feel, right? The thing about like leading, not leading, I don't think, and this is just my like personal trading, I don't think that I could build a consistent enough system based on this like leading mentality that I could trade that every single day. And it would be like a part of my main system that I look for every single day. I think it's just something that happens every now and then that you want to be wary of, you want to pay attention to it. But I don't think you can build same exact thing would go for the closing spikes, right? The closing spikes happen every day or damn near every day, but it's not consistent enough that we can like build a system that we're going to trade every single day the same way. It's just something you want to be mindful of and know that it's happening. And that goes for a lot of things in trading. There's a lot of things that you can see happening that you can't really build an entire system around. No, I haven't seen any more headlines on that, Benjamin. I think they're voting on it in the next couple of months. I think it's like in the November, December timeframe, but I'm not sure. Yeah, 0-day options, and then just penny stocks. I think penny stocks are going to do very well. If they do like 100% remove it, we'll probably do a small account challenge and just do a penny stock challenge account. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, but that's not really getting around it, Jake. That's the problem with the PDT rule. Is people have had that argument since they made the PDT rule, and that's why we still have this stupid ass rule. It's because people are like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You can just trade something else. But people should be mad about it. It's a dumbass rule. It just should not be there. We should not have to get around it. It makes absolutely no sense that it exists. Especially with the surge in like sports gambling, right? They want to protect us from our. I mean, this is kind of a stretch. This is kind of a stretch argument. They're not the same regulatory bodies, obviously, but it's all government, right? But the government says they want to protect us from ourselves. They want to protect our money, right? And then they massively surge sports gambling. And anybody can sports gamble with as little as like $1, right? $5, whatever. You can sports gamble till the end of the earth, right? As much as you want. But hey, that day trading shit, that's too far. And now we have the surge in like even further. Take it even further. Not even sports gambling, just anything. Prediction gambling. Look at the surge in prediction gambling. What colored tie is this person going to be wearing? You can bet on that as much as you want. But oh, you want to day trade penny stocks? That is way too far. I can't believe you would want to do that. Absolutely insane. They put it in place back during the .com bubble as like a way to protect the little man from himself. Like I said, it just doesn't hold up nowadays. It does not hold up. With the options market and the futures market the way it is, the sports gambling market, the prediction market, they allow it all. But they want to protect you from day trading. It's also just one of those rules that's just dumb because it only hurts people with smaller accounts, right? It only hurts like the retail side. It hurts the people getting into trading. They don't want to throw 30 grand into an account. Yeah, I saw a little bit of buzz about the Bank of Japan stuff. They're holding rates, I believe, but they started selling their holdings a bit aggressively, I believe it was. Tarnation, you didn't say anything. What do you mean? Not sure if what's exclusive to Maryland? I don't see your other message. Hey, Ivan, have a good day, man. Or have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday. It doesn't force people into these offshore accounts. Because like Jake was saying, there are many ways to like get around it and kind of like avoid it. But there's no way to 100% just ignore it. Like there's no way to actively day trade and just completely ignore it because they will ban you. But you can go into a cash account, which is probably the best way to get around it. If you're trading in a cash account, you can day trade as much as you can physically with your cash. So that's the best way to get around it. You could also just trade other instruments that don't have that PDT rule, but if you want to actively day trade in a small account and not be in a cash account, there is no way to get around it. The only way to get around it is to have $30,000. It's technically $25,000, but you need more than that so it doesn't go below the line, right? So reasonably, probably 30,000. I hate it because it would be so it would be a lot easier for us to do these small account challenges like every month. We would just do them all the time because we could just throw in like $1,000 or throw in like $5,000, and then we could just do these like small account challenges and see how much we could grow it to. But it's a pain in the ass. If the PT rule is there, you can't day trade. You can only day trade a couple of times. Yeah, exactly. For the cash account, you have to wait for the settlement. And a lot of brokers have gotten very good. The settlement's like T+1, T+2. The old school settlement was T+3, meaning like 3 full days. But some brokers, you could wait like 1 day or 2 days and get your money back. Still rotating, by the way. Keep an eye on the value low here, 797. And then watch VWAP on NASDAQ. Like I said, it's just an ancient rule that it's a dinosaur rule that happened like 20 years ago and they haven't changed it. Yeah, a lot of my viewers are European, so you guys are like, what the hell are you talking about? You guys don't have those dumbass rules. It's just for the US traders. I wouldn't think like that, Jake. I wouldn't think like because it is a cheaper, I guess cheaper would be the right word. It's like a cheaper market that the big boys don't play in it. I don't know the exact numbers, but if I had to guess, the big boys probably still account for most of the 0-day volume. I've never seen that data though, so I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong. But I don't think, is there a single market that retail outweighs like market making and big boy volume? I don't think there is. Unless we're talking like individual stocks, like penny stocks, or like when the GameStop shit was happening and retail was kind of coming together. But I think on an average, on just a normal daily basis, I don't think there's like any index or any market that retail heavily outweighs market making and smart money volume. But like I said, I'm just kind of talking out of my ass. I don't know the numbers on that, so I could be wrong. Good morning, Techie. Okay, here's that rotation. This is like the first rotation we actually got outside of the initial open, hitting that value low. We'll see if they can actually respect this value low here. You have a little bit more to go on NASDAQ, going down about 20 more points. ES is hitting it to the tick. If it wants to rotate yesterday, it has to go down to 90. Let's keep an eye on the Delta move here. Let's see if they can start finding buyers on this value low. Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably the way we're headed. We're probably heading into like a 24/7 market. I personally don't like that. I don't like that the entire market would be like 24/7, like crypto. Because I've lived through the crypto days, the 24/7 trading days, and it's just terrible. It kind of ruins the routine that the market has. Now, even if it's 24/7, it would still have like somewhat of a routine because, I mean, we're humans, we're not robots. We have to go to sleep and we have our normal like 9 to 5 schedules. But it will be more random than it is now. We won't know when the spikes are happening as much. Large tape entirely bearish until just now, for the last like 20 minutes. So now we have a large buyer coming in. I mean, the market kind of already is 24/7, but if they made the actual market 24/7, like all the stocks and everything, like they're just never closing, that would be the difference. And they're talking about doing that. They're talking about making like the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ actually 24/7 or pretty much 24/7. That has been in talks for like a few years though, so I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. But the futures market is pretty much already 24/7. But because the futures market is reliant on all these stocks, and the stocks are technically not 24/7, you can't 100% trust these movements that we have on the futures overnight, right? Yeah, 24/5, yeah. And it's not exactly 24, it's like what, 22 or 23/5? I trade offshore, no limit on trading. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. If you're an American, I would not do that. Okay, here comes that value low of yesterday. So now we are rotating yesterday's profile. Looking for 90, it would have to stay above 90. Losing 90 goes into the overnight low. Where is our 30-minute sweep level? It's kind of 96 or 700. So we'll keep an eye on that. Seems like those buyers are coming in here, protecting that value low. Keep an eye on these EMAs. If they are aggressively protecting this ADMA, then they are trying to break balance. Because if you're balancing, you ignore the EMAs. I don't see an issue future, but I'm not sure, man. I've never traded out of the country, so I could not tell you. But I don't see why there'd be an issue. I'm not one of the laptop gurus that post videos trading on beaches and shit like that. It is respecting that ADMA, so trying to break balance here. Needs to stay below that 96.5. Yeah, I could see it being a problem, like if you were in one of the countries that they banned, but I don't think Japan is one of those countries. A lot of buyer delta coming in here. Must be a headline. This is definitely a headline type of a move. Just waiting to see what the headline is. Regardless of why we're doing this, it's going back into rotation. So keep an eye on that value high if it doesn't instantly fail VWAP here. Still not seeing the headline just yet. It could have just been a block trade, but that was a little fast for a block trade. No, here you go. The headline is coming from China. They're saying the talks with Trump were positive and constructive. China-US relationship is very important. They said the US should avoid trade restrictive measures. They're just talks of the China talks headlines. You can normally tell when the price is moving based on a headline. It's really fast. The speed of the tape is very, very fast. Even faster than block trades. Like block trades, typically you have some speed, and then it goes sticky really quickly. So you get speed and then sticky. If it's a headline, it has speed, but it doesn't get sticky. It stays with a lack of liquidity. Well, it's not just the fact that they get the news before anybody. It's just the fact that they are exceptionally fast. They're robots, right? They can trade within milliseconds. Humans can't do that. So it wouldn't matter if they got the headline even like a second late, maybe even a few seconds late, they would still be faster. Think about how long it takes your human brain to read the headline and then go decide what you're going to do and then put the trade in. Even the fastest trader, like what are we talking, like 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds? So the algos could get it 3 seconds late, 4 seconds late, they would still beat the humans. Failing VWAP. Looks like it wants to go back to what it was doing before the headline. Yeah, be careful today, guys. Like I said, you're gonna see a lot of that stuff today. A lot of those weird movements with block trades and Delta just kind of flooding in out of nowhere. This is one of the most smart money days of the year, possibly the number one smart money day of the year. This is an extremely large rollover and options expiration day. No, it was an LDT. That headline came out, the market barely moved. That headline was out for about 3 to 4 minutes before that move happened. The move happened when the China headline came out. That headline might have given us a little bit of the move down. That possibly was a help. It helped us go down, but it wasn't that spike. Those headlines are still coming out. So there's like some type of talk or like press conference or something with China right now. Need to take this call. Be right back. All right, sorry about that. NASDAQ stacked in balance. Let me see. I have 200, 330. I might need to lower that because we don't really get enough stacked imbalances, to be honest. Yeah, there's like none showing. We don't have too many showing on ES today either. What do I have ES? ES is the same. Oh, you know what it is? It wasn't supposed to be 200. This is because, like, last week my chart was messed up, so I deleted it, and then I copied this chart, and I'd never changed the settings. So that's why we don't see a lot of block trades, and that's why we don't see a lot of stacked imbalances, because my settings never went back to the way they were supposed to be. I forgot what I used to have it on. I think it was 100. Pretty sure it was 100. We'll keep it on 100 for now. Yeah, we'll keep it on 100. And then I need to fix the big trades as well. Where's that one? That should be 100. Yeah, sorry about that. I never realized that until you brought that up. But that's exactly what the problem was. I copy and pasted my ES chart and never changed the settings. Is there anything else that I didn't change? Let me see. No, that should be it. All right, what's going on here? Bottom heavy 30-minute candle, still pressing into that value low, but we are not breaking that value low. So value low is actually at 90. So we're pressing down through this 95 value low of today, looking for 90 for the value low of yesterday. Same thing with NASDAQ, pressing into our value low of today. If it loses that, looking for around 700 to 95. Pretty bottom heavy candle here. Well, a lot of the expiration stuff, Alex, is it's mostly on ES and NASDAQ, like the equities futures, but the equities futures kind of dictate a lot of the other markets, so you could say that they're correlated. And they're also going to be a bit weird today. We are failing to rotate overall. We did bounce into that VWAP, failed it twice. So we are failing to rotate back into that value high. So we do have a slight bearish bias here. This zone that we have marked out right here, that is the prior overnight high. We tried to gain value above it and just could not. So giving us a bit of sell pressure there. I think it's been used up at this point, so we'll go ahead and delete that. Ended up being basically the same zone on that one there, but that's a new level, fresher level. Pretty decent bounce on Intel at 29.50, put in a 30-minute pivot, bounced back into the trail, but it's just not finding any consistent buy pressure up here. Nobody buying after the gap. And probably what it's the reason is, if I had to say, is because the stock has been struggling for so long that people are using that gap up as a big take profit point. So you have a lot of long-term bag holders just letting go. I don't like that Rivian is back below that daily and weekly pivot, but we'll see how it closes on the weekly. It needs to close above like 1450 to confirm those pivot breaks. Very bottom heavy candle here. Notice how they're respecting the EMAs. That is not indicative of balance, right? If they're balancing, they should be disrespecting those EMAs, breaking through them very easily. It's respecting that ADMA pretty much every candle. Well, if you're entering a position with a weak level, that's like a lot of other reversal trades, right? If you're reversal trading, if you're breakout trading, then that's a problem. But a weak level that's like the first sign of almost every reversal trade. You have sweeps, you have market structure breaks, you have rollovers. Speaking of sweeps, there's a 30-minute sweep right here. If it can stay above 93, let's keep an eye on that. Well, you're not exactly putting in a weak low just yet on this one because you haven't built that cluster. You haven't built that kind of like a U shape, like the U shape or the V shape, right? Those candles are still one directional. For it to be a weak low, it would have to bounce back into that prior low and start reclaiming value above it, right? Which it's trying to do, which is why we're watching that sweep level. But it's not actually doing it. It's trying to, but it's failing. But yeah, you have two types of traps usually. They almost always fall into one of those patterns. They fall into the cupping pattern, the U pattern, or they fall into the V pattern. The V pattern is a very aggressive trap. The U pattern is the responsive trap. And that can be flipped upside down, right? You have the N and you have the A. Same exact pattern. You have the responsive trap and you have the aggressive trap. But they almost always fall into that pattern. So here's an example. You actually have both right here. So this would be the cupping trap. That would be the aggressive trap. That would be an aggressive trap, right? This would be an aggressive trap. The cupping trap is more of a rollover, where your structure slowly breaks. The aggressive trap is when it doesn't really tell you the structure is breaking, it just breaks. Where you have a level and you break it and then you just nuke the level. It doesn't give you that slow and methodical rollover of that market structure. So if this does in fact continue to have this cupping pattern, which it's putting in right now, this is one of those cupping traps where it's slowly shifting our market structure. Hey, RP, have a good weekend, man. See, I wouldn't call this an aggressive trap because you're stalling on the responsive level. You're stalling on the 24 EMA. But if it can start putting in higher lows and start to build value back above 93, it would be more of a cupping trap where it's putting in that U shape. But it's not really doing that. It's kind of just failing the 24. Good morning, Mauser. Failing the 24 here, failing the sweep level as well. So we don't really have that 30-minute sweep. We don't really have that delta flip. Here comes that full rotation of yesterday, both on NASDAQ and on ES. You're already hitting it on ES. If we can't stay above 90, possibly looking for that overnight low. A lot of block trades coming in here, maybe another headline. 3 back-to-back block trades, 91 quarter, 92.75, 93.75. Damn near to the exact tick on that value low. Waiting on the headline, I don't see it just yet. This one could have been just a block trade because there were 3 back-to-back block trades. But I'll wait and see if there's a headline. It is Trump remarks, yep. That's what the headline was. Coming back into that FOMC range, FOMC opening range from 86 down to 64. It has been respected 2 different times. Pulled back into it yesterday, bounced aggressively, pulled back into it today. That was the overnight low. But they keep coming back into it. They keep having that magnet effect. So it seems like the headlines we got from China earlier was a phone call between Trump and China, and that's where the headlines are coming out now. So we're getting Trump's side of the headlines. So here's that value low of yesterday. We'll see how it reacts. Notice how we are still respecting the 8 and 24 EMAs. That is indicative that you are breaking balance. When you are rotating back and forth, you ignore those EMAs. So when you're trending, you are breaking balance, right? The only exception to that rule is if the value area is so wide that you can get these trends on the 1 minute while you're still rotating, right? Like if the value area is 20 points wide, you're going to get those trends on the 1 minute. But you want to be paying attention when you're approaching those like value highs and value lows, because that's when you should start breaking those EMAs and going back into balance. But if they're still holding on to them once they break the value high or break the value low, then obviously you're trending. Do you trade on Tradeovate Tarnation? Because Tradeovate has a pretty decent mobile trading. I use Tradeovate on my iPad and it runs perfectly fine. TradingView. Yeah, TradingView should be decent on mobile. I don't know how like the API trading works though. I don't use API. I always trade just solely on the platform. Yeah, that is true. You are working. You're going to be distracted no matter what. But yeah, getting the proper mobile system is a requirement. Tradeovate is fairly good. I don't ever recommend mobile trading, but if you have to do it, Tradeovate's typically not bad. I used to go to the gym in the middle of the day, typically around lunchtime, and I would always pull up Tradeovate on my phone if I needed to. Trying to get back above this value low here at 90. Still in a pretty strong trend. Look at the 5-minute here. Been trending since that lower high. Yeah, very bottom heavy candles today. We're just not seeing a lot of top heavy delta. You can see how bottom heavy these candles are, delta wise. We had this little run right here, had decent top heavy delta, and then it failed to hold it. No top heavy delta there. No top heavy delta here. So pretty much every single bounce is just not holding that aggressive delta, the top side of the candle. Sorry, I was just looking at something. I was just realizing something on their delta charts that I'm trying to remember if this is the case on the other order flow platforms that I was using. So their delta charts, if you set it to delta 500, like where you're looking for a 500 delta per bar instead of like a 1 minute, right? It seems like their charts are using an absolute value. They're using a positive 500 delta or minus 500 delta, not a total of 500 delta. And I'm trying to remember if that's the case on NinjaTrader and like Tradeovate. And I can't remember. All right, holding back above this 90 level. We'll see if they can build value back above 93, possibly a 30-minute sweep if they do. I was realizing it because if you look at, like, say, like this candle here, this candle has way more than 500 delta. But it's because the delta's back and forth, so it's not an absolute delta until it gets to the low there, and then it's an absolute delta. So their delta bars wait for plus 500, minus 500, not a total of 500. And I was trying to see if there was a setting to change that, but there is not. It's not a bad thing, it's just something that I didn't realize it was doing until now. It's just a different way of looking at it. All right, can we break this trend? This trend has been holding pretty much the entire day. This little 5-minute trend here. I'm assuming if we looked at it on like a 15 or 30 minute, it's going to be one time framing. And it is, yes. We have not lost a 15-minute high since 9:45. We have not lost a 30-minute high the entire day. So we are in a one time frame here. Let's keep an eye on this 15-minute candle. We'll see if these highs get taken out. That high would be 97. So leading right into VWAP. Ticks are just trades, so that would just show a bunch of trades. Here comes VWAP. Keep an eye on VWAP at NASDAQ 751 and 763. Once again, finding buyers, protecting that FOMC opening range. Possibly going back into rotation, needing to hold back above like 96, and then going back into 705 to 707. You guys know what their order flow charting is showing? I need to look that up on their database. I wonder what the difference is in order flow compared to like ticks. Because you think they would be pretty much the same. Yeah, maybe. It might have something to do with like only the market orders that are hitting the tape or something. I'm not sure. I'll have to see how their database defines it. Potentially a bear flag in the VWAP here. We are hitting the session VWAP. You're not quite there on ES. Still seeing a lack of that top heavy buyer delta. You had like 2 candles here and then instantly gave it away with bearish delta. So you're not seeing those consistent aggressive buyers. Trying to protect that 93 30-minute sweep level. Or sorry, now this is 90. 93 is the old one. Protecting both of them, actually. So you're sweeping 2 candles here. Still watching these 15-minute highs here. We have not lost a single 15-minute high today. We lost this one right here. We broke it, but we swept it. So I don't consider sweeps losing the high. So every single 15-minute high today has been protected. We'll see if this 15-minute can break and hold above 97. Same is true for the 30-minute highs. 30-minute highs being protected as well. Okay, this candle's starting to break that top-heavy weakness. You're getting a decent amount of buyer delta on the high here. Same thing with this candle, about 400 there. Be careful on this bear flag to VWAP. The buyers might stall out on that VWAP, we'll see. Why VWAP's always a good target for these sweeps. Okay, there's a 50-minute high break. Can we actually stay above that high? Why doesn't this chart have... There we go. No, I never pyramid. Pyramiding is when like you're adding to trades when they go in your favor. This candle is extremely weak on the top half of the candle, so it can be retraced pretty easily. The problem is that you're going to run into VWAP, so that might stall you a little bit. Here is VWAP on NQ. So far, failing VWAP to the exact tick. NASDAQ went through it by like a point or two. This would be one of the harder variations. This is a variation that you are aggressively pushing into VWAP. It is staying above the ADMA on the entire way back to VWAP. Typically, those variations like to break VWAP, possibly trap it, possibly sweep it, whatever it may be. It doesn't mean that the bear flag in VWAP, excuse me, is untradeable. It just means that it's a worse variation. The better variation is when it's kind of struggling to get into VWAP. A good example is right here. So notice how this one, it's a lot choppier into VWAP. I guess this one's not a good example, like this initial spike. But the secondary move is. The secondary move is a lot choppier into VWAP. NASDAQ's kind of a better example where you're chopping into VWAP. And you're kind of seeing the problem there on NASDAQ. They're just not losing the ADMA, so it's pushing through VWAP. Now, we don't know just yet if it's going to sweep it or trap it, but it's definitely breaking it. This 50-minute candle closes in less than 2 minutes. If it closes up here, it will be the first time you have taken out a 50-minute high and actually closed above it. You could watch the 30-minute and say the same thing. 30-minute high would be 703. We have not closed above a 30-minute high so far today. Here's that second half of that candle that I was talking about. Very weak value. Very easy to retrace if they can ignore VWAP. This 30-minute sweep at 90, which also was that value level we talked about. It's not just a 30-minute level. It is a value low. That is being respected. Back into rotation. 705, 710. You didn't quite get there on NASDAQ. You're just barely front running it. Rotation goes back to 791, 795. We've been talking about it all September, and it's still true to this day. The favorite pattern of September are those sweeps, those 30-minute sweeps. You can see they're still playing out to a pretty high degree. All right, that 50-minute candle close, that is the first close above a 50-minute high. By far the strongest bounce we've seen today. Can it stay above VWAP? If it can stay above VWAP, you're looking for that rotation back into the value high, and then at that point, you're probably just going to keep rotating. We'll have to see. But like I said, days like today, these very large expiration days, possibly the largest expiration of the entire year, they are typically D-shaped. They are typically bell-curved. But all right, guys, on that note, we've been streaming for quite a while today. We're going to call it there. I will be streaming the rest of the day in Discord. If you guys are not in Discord, just watch these rotations. Like I said, we have that kind of bell curve right now. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you guys back on Monday, same time as always. If you guys want to support the channel, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. You could also use our code for Apex if you want 80% off. I think it goes until Tuesday. You can use code BREW, B-R-E-W. If you guys would like a 30-day full access trial on Addis, go ahead and sign up on the link below. It is a free trial for 7 days, but then if you send me an email, I can extend that to 30 days and give you guys a full access trial. But all right, guys, I appreciate you being here. Here's my email if you need it. Enjoy your weekend, guys. I will see you in Discord. If you're not there, I will see you on Monday.